You're listening to the Brain versus Me podcast, a show about the moments your brain gets ahead of you, usually before you're ready. Here's your host, Joshua Erickson.
Marriage and parenting are both full-time jobs, except you can't quit, there's no training, and your coworkers are tiny versions of yourself with zero impulse control. Welcome back to Brain vs. Me, where my brain might be a mess, but hey, at least it's relatable. I'm your host, Joshua Erickson, and today we're diving into the part of life that's equal parts beautiful and batshit, family. You ever try to have a serious conversation with your spouse while one kid's screaming in the background, the other's asking if slime is edible, and your brain screaming louder than both of them? Or plan a date night with your partner and you both fall asleep by 8 p.m.? Yeah, that's kind of the vibe here. Today we're going to talk about love, frustration, mismatched expectations, bedtime routines that take 90 minutes, and why no one ever warned us how many meetings come with having kids. Welcome to the show. Let's be real. Marriage is hard. Parenting is hard. Being good at both while trying to manage your mental health, that's boss level mode. And yet we do it every day. We show up. We fight fair, or at least we try. We apologize. We love hard. We figure out how to finish that one chore we forgot to do in the 30 seconds between seeing our partner pull in the driveway and then walking in the house. Nothing's easy, especially when we are the ones making it harder. You ever feel like a total hypocrite telling your kid not to do something you still do? Or swear you won't hover because your parents did it and it drove you nuts, but then you're suddenly giving hourly check-ins and micromanaging their breakfast cereal? You ever take a huge ego hit when your kid brings home a bad grade on math homework you helped with? Yeah, that one hurts. And if you haven't tried explaining their math homework yet, don't worry, unless you're in the mood to feel stupid and unqualified. Whether you're married or in a long-term relationship, you know how much work it takes just to peacefully coexist. And when you add parenting on top of that, the job doubles. While the time you actually have to work on your relationship gets cut in half. It's not easy. But then you already knew that. And if you're listening to this, I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty. You want things to get better. You want to understand more. You want to do the work. And honestly, that's huge. That right there is the sign you're on your way. So today, we're unpacking the messy, beautiful, anxiety-fueled chaos of marriage and parenting with a brain that just won't let us exist in peace. And no, I don't have perfect advice. I'm not a parenting guru or a relationship coach, but I've been married for 25 years. I have 2 kids, and I can tell you this. It takes more work now than it did in the beginning. I'm not saying that to scare you. It's just how life works. You never stop working, especially when it's something that matters. And while I love my wife, sometimes I just want to... You know what? Never mind. She listens to the show. The point is, today's episode might be a little uncomfortable at times, but it'll help you understand yourself and your relationship a little better. And honestly, that's what it takes. Because if you don't understand how you show up in relationships, how can anyone else? All right, enough babbling. Let's get into it. Let's start with the romantic part, marriage. Except this version of romance involves arguments over who left the milk out and who forgot to sign the field trip form that's now 2 weeks overdue. Mental health in marriage? Yeah, it's like the third partner nobody invited, but it still shows up every night hogging all the emotional bandwidth. There's this fantasy that once you find your person, it all gets easier. Like love magically cancels out anxiety or stress or trauma. But that's not how it works. Love doesn't erase your baggage. It just gives you someone else to accidentally throw it at when you're overwhelmed. You've got to communicate, sure. But what happens when one of you is spiraling and the other just wants to veg out in front of the Great British Bake Off? Good luck navigating that minefield without someone catching emotional shrapnel. Here's the part they don't show in rom-coms. You can love someone deeply and still feel completely disconnected from them in a moment of stress. You can want to support them, but also want to hide in the bathroom for 20 minutes just to breathe. And mismatched emotional needs, that's the default setting in most relationships, especially when mental health is in the mix. One of you needs space. The other one needs to talk. One of you recharges in silence. The other spirals in silence and needs you to ask why they're quiet before they implode. Sometimes the most dramatic part of your day is a silent war over who's done more around the house. You ever tally up chores in your head like it's a mental spreadsheet? Dishes, me. Laundry, me. Trash, him, but only because I asked him 3 times. Emotional labor, me. Kids' dentist appointment, me. Suddenly you're not partners, you're rival accountants during tax season. And if you're wondering, in that example, I'm him in my marriage. Sorry, honey. And if you think I'm exaggerating about household chores being a recurring argument, let me assure you I am not. My wife and I have been debating the timing of chores for roughly 99% of our marriage. It's not that I don't do them. It's just that her version of right now and mine have, let's say, creative differences. But nothing sums us up better than the day we spent 40 minutes of a marriage counseling session arguing about, wait for it, how to fold clothes. At one point, the therapist actually asked us to demonstrate our folding methods right there in the office, like it was a competitive sport. How that woman kept a straight face, I will never know. But here's the thing. Those moments matter, not because of the laundry, but because they reveal how we think, how we communicate, and how easy it is to talk past each other, even when we love each other deeply. Anyway, where was I? All right. Another classic miscommunication moment, the phrase that ends 80% of emotionally charged conversations, I'm just tired. Except, I'm just tired might mean any one of the following. I'm emotionally drained but don't want to unpack it. I'm afraid if I open up, I'll cry and won't stop. I need a break, but don't want to seem weak. I feel like I'm failing at everything and don't know how to say it. Marriage isn't about perfect communication. It's about trying, even when your brain is fried and your patience is gone. It's about learning your partner's code words. Knowing when I'm fine means I need you to sit with me for 5 minutes. And when I'm tired really means I'm falling apart, but I don't want to burden you. No, it's not sexy, but real love, it's showing up for each other, especially when the third partner, mental health, is being a loud, uninvited jerk. Let's add kids into the mix, because clearly your marriage wasn't challenging enough. Let's throw a few tiny humans into the equation, ones who can go from cuddling you lovingly to screaming because you cut their toast the wrong way, which, for the record, is a moving target. And for those listening who don't have kids, don't let this scare you off. Kids really are amazing. Anyway, parenting with mental health struggles is like trying to defuse a bomb while someone is throwing Legos at your feet. You want to stay calm. You want to be patient. But your kid just asked for a banana. And when you gave them a banana, they sobbed because they didn't mean banana, because bananas are spicy. True story. They meant grapes. Obviously, how could you not know that? Some days, it's not even about the chaos. It's the noise, the sounds, the overstimulation, the iPad on volume 400. Where are the headphones I bought you? The toy that never shuts off, the constant mom, mom, dad, dad. And just when you finally start to breathe, someone yells, I'm bleeding. But they're not. They just scratch their knee on a blanket somehow. And listen, when your brain is already spiraling from its own nonsense, trying to regulate another person's emotions feels impossible. You're in your own internal meltdown, and now you're supposed to gently guide a tiny version of yourself through theirs with wisdom and grace? No. Sometimes you yell. Sometimes you say something you regret. Sometimes you just walk into the bathroom and sit there with the lights off, pretending to poop just to get a minute of silence. No judgment. I've done it. We've all. And then there's that moment, the gut punch. The kid looks at you, eyebrows furrowed, voice soft, and says, are you mad at me? And you realize you're not mad at them. You're mad at everything. You're tired. You're stretched thin. You're trying so hard to be the emotionally regulated, fully present, gentle parenting ideal while your nervous system is begging for a reboot. And sometimes it all comes crashing down at once. There was this one night, actually one of many, When bedtime turned into some kind of endurance challenge, I had to be in early for work the next day, I think, and I was already running on fumes. My brain was foggy, overstimulated, and somewhere between fight or flight and burn the house down. One son was upset because the only pajamas he wanted were in the laundry. The other was melting down over a math assignment he forgot existed until 9:43 p.m. after he'd been reminded for the 15th time. Meanwhile, my wife texted from the other room asking if I remembered to put in for time off so I could go to the younger one's recital the next day. I hadn't. So there I was, comforting a sobbing kid with one arm, trying to coax the other through fractions with the other, while typing out an email to my boss that basically read, "Hey, need to work from home tomorrow and also take a half day, thanks." And I swear, I just froze in the hallway. I forgot what I was doing. I forgot who I was doing it for. I just stood there blinking, thinking, is this parenting? Or is this just some unpaid crisis management? Eventually, the kids went to bed. The math got half done, and the next day at work, a complete blur. But the real kicker came when I showed up at school for the recital and had to sign my kid out afterward. I was so tired, I forgot what grade he was in. I blanked on his teacher's name. I even messed up his birth date. The ladies at the front desk gave me that look, the one that says, "We're not judging you," out loud. Fortunately, they called my son over to confirm I wasn't a weirdo, just a dad hanging on by a very frayed thread. That's the thing no one tells you about parenting. It's not always magical. Sometimes it's holding the line. Sometimes it's just surviving the moment. And if you've ever found yourself frozen in a hallway or sobbing behind a locked bathroom door or wondering if anyone else is this tired, yeah, they are. You're not broken. You're just in the trenches. Here's the hard truth. Your family isn't failing. You're just comparing it to a lie. There's no such thing as a perfect family. There's the presentation of one, filtered through Instagram posts, Pinterest boards, and those couples who swear they never argue. But behind the scenes, it's chaos. It's whisper yelling at your partner at 2 a.m. about who forgot the grocery pickup. It's group texts full of passive-aggressive Ks. It's muttering, "I'm fine," with the intensity of someone who is definitely not fine. The problem isn't your family. It's the pressure to perform like everything's perfect. To act like you've got it all under control, even when your brain is melting down in the pantry because someone ate the last granola bar and now the universe is collapsing. We're going to talk about that pressure. The should guilt. The mental load no one sees. The moment you feel like you're falling short because your version of love doesn't look like a Hallmark movie. And here's the truth. Real connection doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It comes from pulling the mask off and saying, "This is me. I'm trying." Because once your family sees the real you and loves you anyway, that's not failure. That's the win. So let's be honest here. Most of us didn't grow up learning how to communicate our feelings, set healthy boundaries, or recognize when our brain was feeding us lies. We learned survival. We learned silence. We learned to bottle things up until they either exploded or disappeared into a quiet kind of burnout. But if you want to build something real with your partner, your kids, yourself, you have to unlearn some of that. You have to pay attention to what's happening inside your head before it bleeds into everything outside it. Self-awareness is the real love language, because the more you understand yourself, your patterns, your triggers, your needs, the less you expect your family to guess. You stop blaming your partner for not fixing things you never named. You stop snapping at your kid for asking a question when what you're really upset about is work or exhaustion or that little voice in your head telling you you're not doing enough. Awareness isn't easy. It's confronting. It makes you sit with stuff you'd rather scroll past. But it also gives you power. Power to pause instead of react. Power to choose empathy instead of defaulting to defense. Power to show up with honesty, even when it's messy. You don't need to have it all figured out. But if you're willing to notice, to say, "Hey, I'm struggling today," that's how real connection starts. You're not weak for needing support. You're not dramatic for feeling things deeply. You're human. And that's enough. To wrap this up, marriage and parenting aren't highlight reels. They're lived in, loud, unpredictable, and sometimes held together with caffeine and a Google Calendar. But they're also where the good stuff happens, in the quiet moments, in the shared laughter after the chaos, in the late night "I'm sorry" that says "I'm still here and I'm still trying." You don't have to get it all right. You just have to stay present, to notice when things feel off, to choose love even when it's inconvenient, to show up even when you're tired. Because love isn't made in perfect conditions, it's made in the mess. And if your love lives there too, you're doing just fine. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you liked the episode, go ahead and throw me a follow and ask me a question or leave a comment on Twitter, X, YouTube, or TikTok at TheBrainVerseMe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review, especially if this show made you laugh, cry, or question your entire parenting strategy. Want more? Hit up brainverseme.com to catch up on the latest blog posts and the podcast episodes. Got a topic or question you want me to dive into? Let me know. Coming up next week, we're going to talk about ADHD, executive dysfunction, the magic of hyperfocus, and why starting anything feels like a side quest in a game you forgot how to play. And as always, be kind to yourself and try not to overthink this too much.
Thanks for listening to the Brain versus Me podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to keep up, follow or subscribe to the show. You can leave a comment, ask a question, or share the episode wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show or explore Joshua Erickson's books and writing, visit brainversusme.com.